Nathan's eyes opened at 3:47 a.m., same time for 112 nights straight. He reached for his phone without looking, already knew what it would say. The laundromat dryer rumbled through the floor, 23 rotations before it stopped. He'd counted last night, too. The efficiency apartment was 54 degrees, he could see his breath. The Murphy bed mechanism clicked when he sat up, crossed the cold linoleum to the window. Frost covered the glass in patterns he'd traced before. Outside, the parking lot was empty except for his truck. On the small table sat his mother's Bible. He'd been sorting through her boxes tonight, 4 months after putting her in the ground. The bookmark was still at Psalm 37, "The meek shall inherit the earth." When he opened it, the ATM card fell out. Sticky note fluttered to the floor. He picked it up. His mother's handwriting. Blue ballpoint pen on yellowed paper. For when you need to remember who you are. The card was heavy plastic, old style from 1987. Embossed letters, Nathan J. Pierce, joint account holder. He didn't remember any account. His mother had lived on Social Security, same small house for 60 years. Maybe she'd saved something. $200, $300 if she'd been careful. He set the card next to his phone. Outside, a car engine started. Early shift worker, 3:50 a.m. Tomorrow he'd try the card. Tonight, he just needed to know if he'd ever stop waking at 3:47, ever stop counting rotations, ever remember who he used to be before he signed those papers on day 28. Tomorrow, he'd find out if his mother left him enough to remember, or just enough to survive one more month. The conference room was on the 14th floor. Nathan arrived 10 minutes early, sat in the lobby on a vinyl chair next to magazines from 2019. Through the window, February sleet streaked the glass. Marcia Holloway's assistant called his name at 4:15. Linda was already seated. Marcia sat at the head of the table. Nathan took the chair across from his wife, ex-wife, almost, and noticed Linda was texting. She didn't look up. "Mr. Pierce." Marcia slid 9 pages across the table. "I've marked everywhere you need to initial. Signature goes here on the last page." Nathan scanned the first page. Settlement agreement. "Dissolution of marriage." The words blurred together. "This is the same version I emailed you last week," Marcia said. "Everything we discussed." Nathan hadn't discussed much of anything. He'd received the preliminary papers at school, in front of his third period class. His mother had been dead 12 days. The funeral was 4 days ago. He'd signed a form saying he understood he had 30 days to respond. Today was day 28. "Shouldn't I have a lawyer look at this?" His voice sounded wrong to his own ears. "Pierce, we've been over this. Linda could have asked for much more." Marcia tapped the pages. "This is fair. Initial here, here, here. Sign here." Linda's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, typed something, set it down. The joint savings account would be divided, $242,000 to Linda, $38,000 to Nathan. The house, which Nathan had renovated over 15 years every weekend, tile and cabinets and windows, would remain Linda's property. She'd refinanced it 9 months ago, removed his name from the deed. He'd signed the quitclaim because she said it would get them a better interest rate. His truck would go to Linda. The furniture he'd built, dining table, bedroom set, bookshelves, would stay with the house. "The settlement becomes final in 90 days unless you contest," Marcia said. "But I strongly advise against contesting an agreement you've signed." Nathan's hand hovered over the signature line. 47 seconds. He counted them later. His mother had taught him to take the high road. "People remember how you act when things fall apart," she used to say. Fighting over money would make him look petty. Cedar Falls was a small town. He signed with a pen Marcia provided. His had run out of ink 2 weeks ago. He hadn't bought a replacement. Linda stood immediately. "Thank you for being reasonable, Nathan." Marcia gathered the pages. "We'll file tomorrow. You'll get copies." They left together, Linda and her attorney, already talking about something else. Nathan sat in the conference room for 12 minutes. The security guard finally appeared in the doorway. "Sir, are you okay?" "I don't know," Nathan said. He walked 8 blocks to his apartment in the sleet. No umbrella. He'd donated that too, along with most of his clothes, when he moved out. The efficiency was all he could afford on a teacher's salary. 480 square feet above a laundromat, $240 a month. He passed the house, Linda's house, on 5th Street. The lights were on. 7 of 9 windows. Her Lexus was in the driveway. The garage door was open. He could see his workbench inside, his tools on the pegboard. He reached for his keys, then remembered. He'd turned them in 3 months ago, per the preliminary separation agreement. Checked his pocket anyway. Found the receipt from the funeral home. Balance due, $340. The new apartment key was brass. His old house key had been silver. He had to shoulder the door open. The latch was misaligned. Inside, the Murphy bed was still down from this morning. The dryer in the laundromat hummed through the floor. The radiator clanged, but produced almost no heat. He set the receipt on the table and sat on the edge of the bed. The papers said uncontested. But Nathan was starting to realize the only thing he hadn't contested was his own erasure. Nathan stood at the window of his efficiency apartment, looking out at nothing. The street was empty. Sleet had turned to freezing rain. He could hear it on the roof of the laundromat below, a sound like static. His suit jacket hung over the chair, soaked through at the shoulders. He hadn't owned a top coat since the separation. That had been donated too, along with the winter boots and the good gloves and everything else that didn't fit in 6 boxes. The settlement papers were in his jacket pocket. He should read them again, make sure he understood what he'd signed. But his hands were shaking, not from cold, from something else he didn't want to name. And the pages would just blur anyway. He thought about calling someone, his mother's sister in Arizona, maybe, or his friend Tom from the Rotary Club. But what would he say? I signed away 15 years of work because my wife's lawyer told me it was fair. I gave her the house I rebuilt with my own hands because I was too tired to argue. The funeral program was in his pocket too, next to the receipt. He pulled it out. His mother's face on the cover, a photo from 10 years ago, Lillian May Pierce, 1943-2024. Beloved mother, grandmother, friend. He'd been the only one in the family section at the service. Linda hadn't come. Said she couldn't handle watching his mother suffer, even though his mother was already gone by then. Linda's name wasn't in the program. Nathan folded it carefully and set it on the table. Tomorrow he'd go to school, teach APUS. History to seniors who were already checked out, already thinking about college and summer and anything except the Constitutional Convention. He'd grade papers in the evening because there was nothing else to do in a 480-square-foot room with a Murphy bed and a hot plate and no one waiting for him. Tomorrow he'd wake up and it would still be true. He'd signed the papers, given her everything, kept his pension and $38,000 and his dignity, if sitting alone in the cold counted as dignity. Outside, a truck passed, headlights cutting through the sleet. For a second, Nathan thought it might be Tom coming to check on him, but the truck kept going. No one was coming to check on him. He pulled the Murphy bed mechanism. It clicked into place. Climbed in, still wearing his dress pants and shirt. The sheets smelled like the detergent from the laundromat. Everything in this apartment smelled like other people's laundry. He closed his eyes, opened them. The clock on the wall said 5:47. In 10 hours, he'd be standing in front of a classroom, pretending everything was fine. The dryer downstairs started again, 23 rotations he already knew. He'd counted them every night for 16 weeks. He didn't sleep, just lay there in the dark, listening to the rain turn to ice on the window, waiting for morning. 4 weeks later, Nathan's checking account showed $127. Rent was due in 3 days. He drove to the pawn shop on East 4th Street on a Wednesday afternoon, 2:20 p.m. During his planning period, the shop smelled like gun oil and old leather. A customer was browsing rifles in the back. Nathan set his father's watch on the counter. The owner, a man Nathan recognized from Rotary Club meetings, though neither of them acknowledged it, examined the watch with a jeweler's loupe. 1974 Timex, leather band worn soft from 40 years on Jim Pierce's wrist. On the back, engraved, to Jim Pierce, 40 years service, Cedar Falls Cooperative. I can give you 180, the owner said. 240, Nathan said. That's 1 month's rent. The owner looked at him for a long moment. All right. He counted out the cash slowly. Mostly 5s and 1s. It took 90 seconds. Nathan didn't take the receipt. The customer in the back had stopped browsing. Nathan could feel him watching. You sure about this? The owner asked. Nathan picked up the money. Yes. Outside, he sat in his truck and looked at the bills in his hand. His father had worn that watch every day for 40 years, never missed a shift at the grain elevator. Nathan had promised his mother he'd keep it in the family. The watch had survived his father's 40 years of work. It wouldn't survive Nathan's first month divorced. 6 weeks after signing, Nathan needed to look presentable for parent-teacher conferences. He retrieved his suit jacket from the coat hook in the faculty lounge. When he slid his arms in, the shoulders hung loose, the fabric bunched at his waist. He tried his belt. The usual hole was too loose. He tightened it 2 notches. Diane, the school secretary, glanced up from her desk as he passed. Looking sharp, Nathan. He nodded, kept walking to the faculty bathroom. The fluorescent light buzzed and flickered. He stood at the mirror, adjusted his tie. The tie was blue-striped, the same one he'd worn to his mother's funeral. He hadn't had it cleaned. The man in the mirror looked wrong. Hollow cheeks, gray skin. For 2, maybe 3 seconds, Nathan didn't recognize himself. He adjusted the jacket, left quickly. His first conference was at 6 p.m., Emily Hart's parents. Emily, who'd said in the hallway 3 weeks ago, Nathan had overheard it, my mom says Mr. Pierce got divorced because he's boring. Emily's mother was the one who'd donated Nathan's suit jacket to Goodwill. The good one, the tailored one. Nathan was wearing the cheap one now, the one that didn't fit, the one that made him look like he'd borrowed clothes from someone else's life. Month 3. Nathan needed a dress shirt for conferences. The ones he had were wearing through at the collars. He drove to Goodwill after school, 2:40 on a Tuesday. The store smelled like detergent and basement must. He browsed the dress shirts, looking for his size. Found a blue Oxford, size large, $3.99. Red tag, which meant half off today, $2. He checked the tag. Noticed the third button on the left cuff was missing. He'd meant to replace that button 2 years ago. Never did. His mother had given him this shirt. Christmas 2019. He'd worn it to Thanksgiving dinner last year, the last dinner with Linda before everything fell apart. Nathan, is that you? Mrs. Kowalski stood behind the register, former student's grandmother. Ginny Kowalski, class of 2018. Nathan looked up, nodded. Oh, honey, that's your shirt. Mrs. Kowalski came around the counter. I recognize it. Don't buy it. I'll just give it to you. I don't want it, Nathan said. It's yours. Mrs. Kowalski was louder now, thinking he didn't hear. Let me take it off of the rack. Please don't. But she was already walking toward him, hand extended. The other shoppers had stopped browsing, 4 of them, all watching. Nathan set the shirt down carefully, walked out. Mrs. Kowalski stood holding the shirt, confused, as the door closed behind him. In the parking lot, Nathan sat in his truck. Through the window, he could see Mrs. Kowalski at the register, talking to another employee. They were looking at the shirt. One of them wrote something on a piece of paper, attached it to the hanger. Hold for N. Pierce. Month 4, week 14. Nathan shopped at 7:15 p.m. to avoid people he knew. His cart held ramen, 12 packs, coffee, eggs, discount bread. A stack of papers sat on top. Homework he was grading in the apartment because there was nowhere else to sit. He rounded the corner into the meat section and saw Linda at the counter. Keith was with her. 34, real estate agent. He was buying ribeyes, 2 of them, $43.80, the price tag said. Keith's hand rested on Linda's lower back. Possessive. He was wearing cologne Nathan could smell from 6 feet away. Linda saw him. Nathan. Nathan stopped. His cart stopped. You look... Linda's voice was loud, like she wanted Keith to hear how nice she was being. Are you eating enough? Keith turned, smiled. Hey man, no hard feelings, right? These things happen. Keith was wearing a Rolex. Nathan noticed because he'd just sold his father's Timex for $240. Keith's watch probably cost more than Nathan's monthly salary. Nathan tried to speak. Couldn't. His throat had closed. Keith and Linda's cart was full. Wine, $18 bottle, fresh vegetables, cheese, bakery bread. Nathan's cart had ramen. He left his cart in the aisle, walked out. The store PA system announced, clean up on aisle 7, before he reached the parking lot. In his truck, he sat with the engine off. Took out his phone. Linda's contacts still had their wedding photo. 96. Her in white. Him in a rented tux, both of them 24 and stupid. His thumb hovered over call. 18 seconds. Through the windshield, he saw Keith's truck pull into the lot. Red F-150. In the truck bed, Nathan's table saw, his miter box, his nail gun. The tools he'd left in the garage because the settlement said Linda kept garage contents. Keith parked 3 spaces over, got out, didn't see Nathan, walked into the store. Nathan locked his phone, started the engine. He drove past the house. Workshop light was on in the garage. Keith was inside, using the table saw. Nathan's table saw, with his initials carved in the handle. NJP, on 2008. Nathan kept driving. He didn't go home, just drove. 40 minutes through Cedar Falls, past the college, past the co-op where his father had worked, past his mother's house with the for sale sign in the yard. When he finally parked outside his efficiency apartment, it was 9:00 p.m. The laundromat was closed. For once, it was quiet. He sat in the dark truck and understood. The high road doesn't have any exits. Week 12. Nathan applied for a better apartment. $650 a month. Ground floor. Full kitchen. The building manager was Susan, a woman in her 50s whose son had been Nathan's student in 2015. She ran his credit check. The printer jammed. She ran it again. I'm sorry, Mr. Pierce. She slid the report across her desk. I can't approve this. His credit score was 618. It had been 780 when he got married. The report was 4 pages, stapled wrong. Susan had to restaple it while Nathan watched. Loan in default, $60,000, business loan. Nathan had co-signed it 18 months ago when Linda said she was starting a marketing consulting startup. The startup never happened. The loan payments had come from their joint account until Linda stopped paying. 3 credit cards Nathan had never applied for. Opened in joint names, maxed out. Inquiries from furniture stores Nathan had never visited. You'll need to dispute these, Susan said. Individually, Nathan took the report, went to his truck, called the credit bureau, was on hold for 18 minutes, smooth jazz. It cut out every 30 seconds, then resumed. When the representative finally answered, her voice shifted when she pulled up his account, went from script to something else. Careful. You'll need to file disputes in writing, she said. Each one separately. The process takes 90 days minimum. Nathan hung up, sat in the parking lot, outside the apartment building he wouldn't be moving into. The credit report showed 6 different ways Linda had spent his name. He was just starting to wonder what else she'd spent. 3 days earlier, week 11, March 12th, 9:15 a.m., Linda had arrived at the Goodwill donation dock. 4 garbage bags in her trunk. Black, heavy-duty. She popped the trunk, and a volunteer came over to help. Spring cleaning? Mrs. Chen, 60-something, former neighbor from 2 streets over. Just things I don't need anymore, Linda said. Mrs. Chen opened the first bag. Men's dress shirts. Nice ones. These look good. Somebody will be happy. Linda handed over the last bag. Her hands shook slightly. She crossed her arms, steadied them. Mrs. Chen paused. Are you sure about this? It's just things, Linda said. She drove away quickly. Mrs. Chen stood in the loading dock, holding a bag of clothes that still smelled like cedar, and didn't say what she was thinking. 3 days later, Nathan found his shirt on the rack. Week 14, Nathan arrived at Cedar Falls Methodist for the 8:30 service, early service. He'd attended for 12 years, taught Sunday school for the kindergarten class from 2018 to 2022. Margaret, the church secretary, intercepted him in the lobby. Nathan, she didn't meet his eyes, handed him a folder. Inside was a letter, typed, from Pastor Williams. Request to attend different service time to avoid potential discomfort for both parties. The letter was dated 3 days ago. Margaret had waited until Nathan arrived to give it to him. Linda needs her church family during this difficult time, Margaret said quietly. Nathan read the letter standing in the lobby. Other parishioners slowed down walking past, then sped up. Inside, the organ started, Great is thy faithfulness. The folder also contained his last 3 months of tithing envelopes, uncashed. He'd stopped giving after the divorce. But the envelopes were still there, returned to him like homework marked incomplete. He left without attending the service. Sat in his truck in the parking lot, counted cars, 43. He recognized 8 former friends. The church had chosen Linda. She contributed to the building fund. Nathan had just taught children how to color inside the lines. God might forgive all sinners equally. But apparently Cedar Falls Methodist had a preferred donor list. Week 15, late Thursday night, Nathan finally went to his mother's house to pack her belongings. 5 months after the funeral, he'd been avoiding it. Her bedroom still smelled like Jergens lotion and Folgers coffee. The bed was made. She'd made it the morning she went to the hospital and never came back. He opened the nightstand drawer. Bible. Reading glasses. Hearing aid batteries. The Bible was worn at Psalms. He opened it to the bookmark. Psalm 37. The meek shall inherit the earth. When he removed the bookmark, the ATM card fell out. Sticky note attached. Yellow with age. His mother's handwriting. For when you need to remember who you are. Nathan picked up the card. Heavy plastic, old style. Embossed. Nathan J. Pierce, joint account holder. He didn't remember his mother adding him to any account. She'd lived on Social Security, same house for 60 years, shopped with coupons, saved quarters in a Tupperware container for the laundromat. He sat on the floor with the card in his hand. 8 minutes. The house was silent except for the furnace clicking on. He put the card in his wallet, continued packing. In the nightstand, he found the Tupperware container, full of quarters. His mother had been saving them until the day she died. Nathan took the container. He'd need it for the laundromat in his efficiency apartment. The card could wait until tomorrow. Same night, earlier, 7:20 p.m. Nathan had driven past the house. He shouldn't have, but he did. The lights were on. Kitchen window visible from the street. Linda had never liked curtains. Said they made rooms feel smaller. Nathan parked 3 houses down, engine off, sat in the dark truck, and watched. Keith was chopping vegetables at the island. Nathan's butcher block, the one with knife marks from 10 years of meals. Keith was using Nathan's chef's knife, the one Nathan had sharpened every Sunday. Linda stood at the stove, stirring something in the Le Creuset Dutch oven, wedding gift from Nathan's mother. Linda was wearing Nathan's BBQ apron. Grill sergeant, they were laughing. Nathan couldn't hear the words, but he could see their mouths moving. Keith set down the knife, walked behind Linda, put his hands on her waist, kissed her neck while she stirred. Linda leaned back into him, smiled. They moved around each other naturally, passing ingredients, tasting from the spoon. Keith fed her something. She laughed again. Nathan watched for 8 minutes. The dashboard clock moved from 7:20 to 7:28. He should leave. He knew he should leave. But he couldn't look away from the kitchen he'd remodeled, the tile he'd laid, the cabinets he'd installed, the window he'd replaced last summer for $850 in materials. Keith was wearing the apron, using the knife, standing in Nathan's space, living Nathan's life, making Linda laugh the way she used to laugh with Nathan before she learned to fake it. A porch light turned on 3 houses down, Mrs. Patterson's house. She stepped onto her porch, looked toward Nathan's truck. Nathan started the engine, drove away. He pulled over 2 blocks later, hands shaking on the steering wheel, not from cold, from something else. The worst part wasn't seeing them together. The worst part was seeing Linda laugh. Real, unguarded laughter, the kind she used to have with him in 1996, 1998, 2003, before everything calcified into performance. She'd been happy once with Nathan. He remembered that. Thanksgiving dinners where she'd lean into him the same way she'd just leaned into Keith. Nights cooking together in that kitchen, her stirring while Nathan chopped, moving around each other like dancers who'd practiced the routine 1,000 times. When had she stopped laughing? When had he stopped noticing? Nathan drove home. It was 7:50 when he parked outside the Efficiency. The laundromat was closed, quiet for once. He sat in the dark truck and understood something he'd been avoiding for 16 weeks. Linda wasn't performing with Keith, she'd been performing with Nathan. For years, maybe. Performing contentment while planning her exit. The house, the tools, the laugh, all of it belonged to Keith now. Nathan was just the man who'd built it, paid for it, and signed it away, because he thought that's what good men did. Tomorrow, he'd pack his mother's belongings. Find whatever she'd left him. $200, maybe $300. Tomorrow, he'd try to remember who he was before day 28. Tonight, he just needed to sit in the dark and accept that the high road didn't have exits. It just had rest stops where you could watch other people live your life through kitchen windows. You'd installed yourself. Week 16, day 112. Nathan woke at 3:47 a.m. with the card on his mind. He waited until the bank opened. Drove there at 9:05 during his planning period. The ATM was in the lobby. He slid the card in. Selected balance inquiry. The screen went blank, flickered. Displayed insufficient display width, contact branch representative. Nathan stood at the ATM for 30 seconds. Tried again, same message. Inside, he waited for the branch manager. The lobby was too warm. He was sweating in his Goodwill blazer, the cheap one that didn't fit right. Mr. Pierce? The manager's name tag said Robert Halstead. He was pale before Nathan even spoke. I need to check my account balance, Nathan said. He slid the card across the desk. Robert typed something, went very still, typed again. Pierce, you need to speak with our private wealth division. I just need the balance. The balance is... Robert looked at his screen. At Nathan. Back at the screen. Sir, this account is outside normal branch access. I'm calling our main office. 10 minutes later, Nathan was on the phone with a woman named Patricia Edmonds, Private Client Services, Des Moines. Mr. Pierce, can you verify your social security number? He did. And your mother's full name and date of birth? Lillian May Pierce, née Hartman, May 12th, 1943. Pierce, I'm looking at your account now. You're listed as joint holder on trust account 1987-447B. The current balance is $47,318,442.67. Nathan didn't say anything. Well, Pierce, say that again. Ashno, $47,318,000. How? Patricia's voice shifted, professional to careful. The account was established in 1987. Original holder, Lillian May Pierce. You were added as joint account holder in 1989. The origin appears to be equity stake in a venture capital firm. It's been invested conservatively through the firm's successor companies for 37 years. Nathan drove to his mother's house, unlocked the door with the key he'd kept. In her bedroom, he found the file box in the closet, labeled in his mother's handwriting, Financial, Nathan. Inside, quarterly statements, 37 years worth, everyone kept, filed by year. Original trust documents dated 1987. A letter, handwritten, from someone named Gerald Whitmore. Lillian has more integrity than anyone I've known in 40 years of business. This is not charity. This is earned. She was loyal when loyalty meant something. She stayed when others left. She asked for nothing. I'm giving her 12% equity in the firm because I should have done it 20 years ago. Nathan read it twice. At the bottom of the box, his mother's journal. One entry dated July 1989 added Nathan to the account today. He's 8 years old. He won't understand for a long time. Maybe he'll never need it. But I know how the world works. I know what happens to good men. They get used. They get told that being quiet means being weak. They give everything and get nothing back. Nathan will need this someday. When he learns the world isn't fair to good men. When he finds out that taking the high road sometimes means walking off a cliff. This money won't fix what breaks. But it will give him choices. It will remind him who he is. Nathan sat on the floor of his mother's bedroom, surrounded by paper. The account statements showed steady growth. Conservative investments, his mother never touched it, never spent a dollar, lived on Social Security, in the same house for 60 years, saved quarters in Tupperware, clipped coupons. She'd been protecting him for 35 years. Linda had pushed for a fast divorce specifically to file before his mother's estate was settled. She'd assumed his mother had maybe $50,000 in savings. She had no idea. The money didn't change what Linda had done. It didn't give him back the 6 months he'd lost, the 22 pounds, the sleep pattern that would never fully heal. But it changed what Nathan could do about it. Nathan drove to Des Moines the next morning, looked up attorneys, found Stuart Holbrook, top family law specialist, $850 an hour. Stuart's office was downtown, 18th floor, view of the Capitol. "Mr. Pierce, have a seat." Nathan sat, explained the situation, the 30-day deadline, while his mother was dying. The signing 12 days after her death. The settlement, 80-20 split, house gone, truck signed over, credit destroyed. Stuart listened, took notes, asked questions Nathan couldn't always answer because he hadn't asked them himself on day 28. "The settlement becomes final on day 118 unless you file to vacate," Stuart said. "That's 3 weeks from now. Can I vacate it?" "Possibly. We'd argue temporal duress, you signed during acute grief, 12 days post-bereavement, undue influence, attorney pressure during vulnerable state, unconscionability. The split has no legal justification, and if we dig into her finances, we might find more." "Like what?" "You said she defaulted on a loan you co-signed. That's fraud if she misrepresented the business purpose. You mentioned credit cards you didn't apply for. That's identity theft. Let me subpoena her financial records. See what's there. How much will this cost?" Stuart looked at Nathan, at the Goodwill blazer, the cheap shoes. "Do you have resources?" "Yes," Nathan said. I do now." Then let's make her wish she'd been fair the first time." Nathan thought about it. About Linda in the kitchen with Keith, laughing. About his shirt on this Goodwill rack with a note, "Hold for N. Pierce," about Mrs. Kowalski trying to give him his own clothes. About the church letter. About waking at 3:47 for 112 nights. About his mother's journal. "When he learns the world isn't fair to good men, I don't want to make her wish anything," Nathan said. "I want what's fair." Fair meaning? 50-50. "I want my credit fixed. I want the court to know what she did. And I want it on record so she can't do it to someone else." Stuart nodded. "We'll file by Friday." Nathan stood, shook Stuart's hand, drove back to Cedar Falls. That night he woke at 3:47. But for the first time in 16 weeks, he didn't count the dryer rotations. He got up, made coffee, sat at the small table in his efficiency apartment, opened his laptop, wrote down everything he remembered about the settlement negotiation. Every date, every conversation. Every time Linda had asked him to sign something in the year before she filed, the money didn't change what Linda had done, but it changed what Nathan could do about the truth. Stuart filed the motion to vacate on Friday. Motion for discovery followed on Monday. Week 19. Linda's financial records arrived via subpoena. Nathan drove to Des Moines. Stuart's conference room. Papers spread across the table. "Your ex-wife is either very stupid or very arrogant," Stuart said. "I'm thinking arrogant." The business loan, $60,000. Linda applied for it 18 months before filing, told the bank she was starting a marketing consulting firm, used Nathan's income and pension to qualify. The startup never happened. The loan went into default 4 months after disbursement. Linda had transferred the money to a personal account, then spent it. 3 credit cards opened in joint names. Linda forged Nathan's signature on the applications. Total debt, $42,000, all maxed out. Purchases, furniture, clothing, electronics. None of it in the marital home when Nathan moved out, 6 months before filing. Linda transferred $90,000 from the joint savings to a personal account Nathan didn't know existed. 9 months before filing, Linda refinanced the house, removed Nathan from the deed, took a $50,000 cash-out equity loan. The money went to the same personal account. "She was stripping assets while you were taking care of your dying mother," Stuart said. "Systematically. This wasn't impulse. This was a plan." Stuart slid another page across the table. Email, printed from Linda's work account, sent to someone named Jenna, filing this week. "Timing is perfect. He's so distracted with his mom he'll sign anything. Marcia says we can get 80-20 if I push hard enough. He won't fight. He never fights." The email was dated 1 week before his mother's funeral. Nathan read it 3 times. "We'll depose her in 2 weeks," Stuart said. "She'll have to answer under oath. Why she filed the day after your mother's funeral. Why she served you at school. Why she pushed a 30-day deadline. All of it. What do you think the court will do? Void the settlement. Order equitable distribution, 50-50. Make her pay your legal fees. Possibly sanctions against her attorney for exploitation of temporal duress." Stuart paused. "How much do you want to hurt her?" Nathan looked at the email. "He won't fight. He never fights." "I don't want to hurt her," Nathan said. "I want her to see what fair actually looks like." That night, Nathan's phone rang. Linda. He let it go to voicemail. She called again. 5 times in 20 minutes. Finally, he answered, yes. Nathan, what are you doing? Her voice was tight, controlled. Stuart Holbrook? Really? He costs a fortune. I can afford it. This is insane. The settlement was fair. We agreed. You agreed. I signed because Marcia told me I'd look petty if I fought. Because you filed the day after my mother's funeral. Because I was too tired to think. Silence on the line. Nathan, let's talk about this. We don't need lawyers. Your lawyer already deposed me. In my head. Every day for 16 weeks. Now it's your turn. I'll offer 60-40. You can have the truck back. I'll pay your legal fees. 50-50. That's what the law says. That's what fair means. You're being unreasonable. Linda, I saw the email. Longer silence. What email? Timing is perfect. He'll sign anything. That email. He heard her breathing change. The deposition is in 6 days, Nathan said. Stuart will ask you why you filed the day after my mother's funeral. You'll answer under oath. The transcript will be public record. Everyone in Cedar Falls will read it. Nathan. You wanted the house. You got it. You wanted the money. You got it. You wanted me gone. I'm gone, but you don't get to rewrite what happened. Not anymore. He hung up. She called back immediately. He blocked the number. Nathan Pierce, 53, Cedar Falls High School history teacher, has filed a motion to vacate his divorce settlement, alleging temporal duress and undue influence. Court documents show Pierce signed the agreement 12 days after his mother's death, during what his attorney calls acute bereavement and documented grief. The settlement gave his ex-wife 80% of marital assets. The article included quotes from the motion, details about the timeline, the business loan default, the email. By noon, Nathan's phone had 6 messages. Former friends, neighbors, people he hadn't heard from in months. Tom from Rotary Club. Nathan, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Call me. The school principal stopped by his classroom during planning period. Nathan, I read the article. We should have checked on you. I should have checked on you. It's fine, Nathan said. It's not fine. You're a good teacher. You've been here almost 30 years. We want you to lead the department next year, if you're interested. Nathan nodded. I'll think about it. And at the hardware store that afternoon, the owner, a man named Frank who'd sold Nathan materials for 15 years of renovations, stopped him at the register. Your money's no good here today, Frank said. Coffee's on me. I'm just buying screws. I don't care. I read what she did. That's low, real low. Nathan took the free coffee. Sat in his truck in the parking lot. The town was reading the truth. Finally. Week 23. Nathan was grading papers in his apartment when someone knocked. He opened the door. Tom from Rotary Club. Can I come in? Nathan stepped aside. Tom looked around the efficiency. The Murphy bed, the hot plate, the single chair. Jesus, Nathan. You've been living here? It's what I could afford. Tom sat on the edge of the bed. I'm sorry. We all assumed. Linda said you wanted the separation, that you agreed to everything. She made it sound mutual. It wasn't. Yeah, I'm seeing that now. Tom rubbed his face. Look, a bunch of us have been talking. The Rotary guys. We want to help. If you need... I don't need help, but thank you. The article said you hired Stuart Holbrook. That's not cheap. I can afford it. Tom looked at him. Okay, but if you need anything, you call me. After Tom left, Nathan sat at the table. His phone showed 3 more messages. People he hadn't talked to in months. Former friends coming back now that the truth was public. It should have felt good. Vindication, support. Instead, it felt like watching people read a map they should have been able to see the whole time. Week 25. Linda's deposition, Stuart's office. Des Moines. Nathan didn't attend. Stuart said it was better that way. Let Linda answer questions without Nathan in the room. Stuart called him that evening. We have her, Stuart said. On record, under oath. Every question I asked, she either incriminated herself or looked evasive. Tell me. Stuart read from notes. Q. Why did you serve divorce papers on February 17th? 80. It was time. Q. That was the day after Mr. Pierce's mother's funeral, correct? A. Yes. Q. Why that day specifically? A. No. It was just timing. Q. You waited 27 years of marriage. You couldn't wait one more week? And it wasn't like that. Cool. Did you transfer $90,000 from the joint savings account to a personal account 6 months before filing? A. So I needed to protect my assets. Q. From your husband. A. From the divorce. Q. But you hadn't filed yet. A. I was planning to file. Q. Did you write this email? Email presented. Timing is perfect. He'll sign anything. A. I don't remember. Guas, it's from your work account. Date. February 10th, 2024. 1 week before you filed. Do you remember now? A. I may have been venting to a friend. Q. Venting. Is that what you call premeditated exploitation of your husband's grief? 8. Objection. Argumentative. Linda's attorney, don't answer that. She crumbled, Stewart said. Tried to explain away the timing, the email, the loan defaults. Every answer made it worse. Her own attorney looked uncomfortable. What happens now? Her attorney will try to settle. Probably this week. They don't want this going to a hearing. The transcript is public record, every detail. Linda works in marketing, client-facing. This makes her look calculating and cruel, bad for business. 2 days later, Linda's new attorney called. Marcia Holloway had quietly referred the case to someone else. The offer. 60-40 split in Linda's favor. Nathan gets his truck back. Linda pays Nathan's legal fees to date. Stewart called Nathan. They're offering 60-40. We can do better in court. The judge is going to be livid when he sees that email. Nathan thought about it. About Linda in the deposition, trying to explain why she'd filed the day after his mother's funeral. About the transcript becoming public. About his mother's journal. This won't fix what breaks, but it will give him choices. No, Nathan said. I don't want better. I want fair. Tell them 50-50, or we go to court. Linda pays my legal fees, and I want my credit cleared. That's it. You sure? We could push for more. I'm sure. Fair isn't about winning. It's about the truth stopping being negotiable. Stewart was quiet for a moment. All right, I'll tell them. Week 28, the hearing. Nathan attended this time. Judge Catherine Morrison presided. She read the motion, the evidence, the deposition transcript, looked at Linda's attorney. Counselor, your client served divorce papers the day after Mr. Pierce buried his mother. She pushed a 30-day deadline while he was actively grieving. She sent an email saying, and I quote, he'll sign anything. Explain to me why I shouldn't sanction her for exploitation of temporal vulnerability. Linda's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client acted on advice of counsel. Which counsel, Ms.? Holloway isn't here today. Ms. Holloway felt it was best to refer the case because she knew her tactics wouldn't survive scrutiny. Judge Morrison looked at Linda. Ms. Pierce, stand up. Linda stood. Did you file for divorce the day after your husband's mother's funeral? Yes, Your Honor. Why? It was time. You waited 27 years. You couldn't wait one more week? Linda didn't answer. Did you transfer $90,000 from the joint account before filing? Yes. Did you default on a business loan your husband co-signed? The business didn't work out. Did you default, yes or no? Yes. Judge Morrison looked at the file. The original settlement gave you 80% of marital assets, a house Mr. Pierce renovated with his own hands, tools he bought, furniture he built, all while he earned 1/3 of your income. What part of that seemed fair to you? Linda's attorney. Your Honor, we're prepared to offer. I'm not interested in offers. I'm interested in justice. Judge Morrison signed an order. The settlement dated February 28, 2024 is hereby void. The court orders equitable distribution, 50-50 split of all marital assets. The house will be sold and proceeds divided. Ms. Pierce will pay Mr. Pierce's legal fees in full. Ms. Pierce is responsible for all debt incurred in joint names, including the business loan. Mr. Pierce's credit report will be corrected to reflect this order. She looked at Linda again. Ms. Pierce, I'm entering a formal finding that you exploited your husband's bereavement for financial gain. That finding will remain in the court record, permanently. Do you have anything to say? Linda's attorney whispered something. Linda shook her head. Then we're done here. Outside the courthouse, Stewart shook Nathan's hand. That's as close to a judicial reprimand as I've ever seen. Congratulations. Nathan nodded. Thank you. What will you do now? Go back to teaching, grade papers, live my life? You're not going to celebrate? Nathan looked at the courthouse. Winning isn't the same as getting back what was lost. The judge said justice was served. But justice is just the moment when the truth stops being negotiable. Stewart studied him. You're more philosophical than most of my clients. I teach history. I know how this ends. Linda loses the house, the reputation, the boyfriend. I get my money back, my credit fixed, my dignity acknowledged. But neither of us gets back the 28 years. Neither of us gets to say it meant something. Fair point. Nathan walked to his truck, drove back to Cedar Falls. It was June, late afternoon, summer heat after months of cold. The house, Linda's house, soon to be sold, had a for sale sign in the yard when he passed. He didn't slow down. Month 8. The house sold in August. Nathan didn't go to the closing. Stewart handled it. The proceeds were divided electronically. Nathan's half appeared in his checking account on a Wednesday, $167,400. He left most of it there. Didn't touch the trust account either. $47 million felt like someone else's money. The $167,000 felt like proof of something, though he wasn't sure what. He moved to a new apartment. 1 bedroom, 8 miles from Cedar Falls, $650 a month. Ground floor, full kitchen, working air conditioning. The apartment had a small patio. He bought a chair, sat there in the evenings, grading papers, drinking coffee. He didn't buy new furniture, didn't need much. A table, a bed, a lamp. The Tupperware container of quarters sat on the kitchen counter. He still did laundry at the laundromat, even though the apartment building had machines. Habit. The town had shifted. Coffee shop, late August. Nathan overheard two women talking. Did you hear? Linda had to move to an apartment smaller than the one Nathan had. Keith broke up with her too, saw it on Facebook. Can you blame him? That court transcript. Everyone read it. Timing is perfect. He'll sign anything. That's cold. I always liked Nathan. Quiet guy, good teacher. Nathan didn't turn around. Paid for his coffee, left. School started the last week of August. First faculty meeting. The principal announced Nathan would lead the history department. Nathan's been here 28 years. He's an excellent teacher and a better man than most of us gave him credit for. Congratulations, Nathan. Polite applause. Diane, the school secretary, smiled at him. Jerry, the math teacher, shook his hand after. Nathan taught his classes. AP U.S. History, the Constitutional Convention, Federalist Papers. Students who actually paid attention this year. One student, Emily Hart, the one who'd said Nathan was boring, stayed after class in September. Mr. Pierce, I'm sorry for what I said last year. About you being... I didn't know. I was stupid. You were 17, Nathan said. 17-year-olds are supposed to be stupid. It's part of the job. She laughed. Left. Nathan erased the board, gathered his papers, went home to his apartment with the patio and the working air conditioning and the life that wasn't the one he'd built but was the one he had. September. Nathan ran into Linda at the grocery store. She was alone. No Keith. She looked tired, thinner. Her cart had budget brands. She saw him, stopped. Nathan. Linda. They stood in the cereal aisle. Other shoppers moved around them. I heard you're a department lead now, she said. Congratulations. Thank you. I wanted to say, I'm sorry for how it happened. I was wrong. Nathan looked at her. At the woman he'd been married to for 27 years. The woman who'd sent that email. The woman who'd filed the day after his mother's funeral. Okay, he said. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Linda? I don't know. Something, anything. Nathan adjusted his cart. I hope you're doing all right. I mean that, but I can't do this conversation. Not here. Not now. He walked away. Linda stood in the cereal aisle, watching him go. In his truck, Nathan sat for a minute, hands steady on the wheel. No shaking, no counting, just quiet. He'd seen her, spoken to her, and he'd felt nothing. No rage, no satisfaction, nothing. Maybe that was healing. Maybe it was just scar tissue. Either way, it meant he could go home, make dinner, grade papers, live his life without her in it. October. Tom from Rotary Club invited Nathan to a barbecue. First social event Nathan had attended in a year. He almost said no, then thought about his mother's journal. When he finds out the world isn't fair to good men. He went. Tom's backyard. 12 people. Some Nathan knew, some he didn't. They asked about the case. About Linda. Nathan answered briefly. Changed the subject. Frank from the hardware store was there. Nathan, you need anything for that new place? I'll give you contractor pricing. I'm good. Thank you. And a woman Nathan didn't know introduced herself. Michelle. Teacher at the elementary school. Divorced 3 years ago. They talked about schools, students, the upcoming school year. Normal conversation. No pity, no probing. She asked if he'd like to get coffee sometime. Maybe, Nathan said. Let me think about it. Fair enough. He left the barbecue at 8, drove home. Sat on his patio with a beer. He could date again, eventually, maybe. When the idea of trusting someone didn't make his hands tighten. Not yet, but someday. November. Nathan's credit report came back clean. 780 again. 35 years of perfect payment history minus the 6 months Linda had destroyed. He framed the report, hung it in his home office. Not as a trophy, as a reminder. The world wasn't fair to good men, but good men could learn to stop apologizing for fighting back. December, first snow. Nathan stood on his patio, watching it fall. The apartment complex was quiet. Families inside, making dinner, living lives. His phone rang. Stuart Holbrook. Nathan, just wanted to check in. How are you doing? I'm fine. Good, actually. I'm glad to hear it. Listen, I wanted to tell you. Linda's former attorney, Marcia Holloway, was reprimanded by the state bar. Nothing major, but it's on her record now. Exploitation of vulnerable parties during settlement negotiations. Because of my case? Partially. Apparently you weren't the only one. But yours was the one with the clearest documentation. The email, the timeline, the judge's finding. Good, Nathan said. Maybe she'll think twice next time. Maybe. Anyway, I wanted you to know. Oh, and Linda lost her job. Marketing firm let her go in October. Said it was performance-based, but we both know why. Nathan was quiet. You still there? Stuart asked. Yeah, I don't feel good about that. Why not? She tried to destroy you. I know. But destroying her back doesn't fix anything. It just means we both lost. Stuart laughed. You're a strange client, Nathan. Most people want blood. I wanted fair. I got it. What happens to Linda now is her choice. They hung up. Nathan watched the snow. Thought about Linda losing her job, her career, the reputation she'd spent 20 years building. She'd earned it. He knew that. Every consequence was directly traceable to her choices. But it still felt like watching someone drown, even if they'd jumped in themselves. Fair didn't feel like victory. It just felt like the truth finally had the same weight as the lies. January year 2. Nathan woke at 6:30 a.m., no alarm, just woke. He hadn't woken at 3:47 in 4 months. Didn't know when it stopped. Just noticed one morning it was gone. He made coffee. Real coffee, not instant. Sat at his kitchen table, grading AP history papers. Student essay, define one moment that changed American history. And one student wrote about Seneca Falls Convention. Women's rights, the moment women refused to accept the terms they'd been given. Nathan wrote in the margin, yes, sometimes the most important act is refusing to accept the terms you're given. His phone buzzed. Text from Michelle, the elementary teacher. They'd been on 3 dates. Coffee, dinner, movie, good morning. Still on for Saturday? Nathan replied, yes, looking forward to it. He was. Cautiously, carefully, but genuinely. February, 1 year since the signing. Nathan didn't mark the date. Didn't think about it until the afternoon, when he realized. Day 365. He'd survived. Lost 22 pounds. Gained 15 back. Still underweight, but improving. Lost a house. Gained an apartment he chose himself. Lost a marriage. Gained clarity. Lost 6 months to survival mode. Gained knowledge about who he was under pressure. The math didn't balance. It never would. But he was here. Teaching. Living. Drinking coffee on Saturday mornings. Going on dates with a woman who made him laugh. That was something. March. Nathan saw Keith at the hardware store. Keith was buying drywall screws. Saw Nathan. Looked away quickly. Started to leave. Keith, Nathan said. Keith stopped. Turned. Nathan, hey. How's the house flipping business? It's good. Busy. They stood in the aisle, neither moving. I'm not going to make this weird, Nathan said. You did what you did. It's over. But I want my table saw back. What? The table saw, with my initials carved in it, NJP 2008. It's mine, not Linda's, not yours. I want it back. Keith shifted his weight. I don't know if I still have it. You have it. I saw it in your truck last year. I want it back by Friday. Or what? Or I'll file a police report for stolen property. Linda kept garage contents per the settlement, but that saw predates the marriage. It was mine before I met her, so legally it's theft. Keith stared at him. You're serious? Completely. Fine, I'll drop it off. Where? Nathan wrote his address on a hardware receipt, handed it over. Friday, Nathan said, before 5. Keith left without buying the screws. Friday at 4:30, Nathan's doorbell rang. Keith stood there with the table saw, set it on the patio. It's all there, Keith said. I didn't use it much anyway. Thank you, Nathan said. Keith nodded, left. Nathan carried the saw inside, set it in the corner of his living room, ran his hand over the carved initials. NJP 2008. He didn't need the saw. Didn't have space for woodworking, but it was his, and getting it back meant something he couldn't articulate. Sometimes fair wasn't about the object. It was about refusing to let someone else decide what you got to keep. April, Nathan received a letter, forwarded from his old address, from Linda. He almost didn't open it. Set it on the counter for 2 days. Finally opened it Saturday morning. Nathan, I know you don't want to hear from me. I understand. But I need to say this, even if you throw this letter away. I was wrong, not just about the settlement, about everything. The timing, the email, the way I treated you in the last 5 years of our marriage. I convinced myself I was protecting my future, that you'd be fine, that you didn't really need half because you'd always been content with less. I told myself I earned more, so I deserved more, but the truth is, I was scared. Scared of being 50 and starting over. Scared of being alone. Scared of losing the house and the life and the image I'd built. So I made you the villain in a story where you were just tired. You were tired of pretending we were happy. I was tired of pretending I didn't resent you for being content. We should have just said that. Instead, I took everything because I could, because Marcia told me I could, because the law favored the person who acted first. I lost my job. I lost Keith. I lost my reputation. I lost the house anyway when it sold. I live in an apartment smaller than yours was. I shop at Goodwill now. I know what it's like. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm just saying I'm sorry. For all of it, I hope you're okay. I hope you're happy. You deserve that. Linda Nathan read it twice. Set it down. He didn't feel forgiveness. Didn't feel anger. Just acknowledgement. She'd said it. Finally. The truth. He folded the letter, put it in a drawer, didn't reply. Maybe someday he'd feel something about it. Maybe not. For now, it was enough to know she'd written it. To know the truth had reached her, even if it took losing everything to get there. May. Nathan and Michelle went to dinner, their 8th date. She asked about his marriage. He told her, not all of it, just enough. Do you think you'll ever trust someone again? She asked. I don't know, Nathan said. I'm working on it. That's honest. I'm trying to be. She reached across the table, held his hand. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. Nathan squeezed her hand. Thank you. They finished dinner, walked to her car. She kissed him goodnight. Not their first kiss, but the first one that felt like a promise instead of a test. Driving home, Nathan thought about trust, how it's built slowly, how it's destroyed quickly, how rebuilding it means accepting that the foundation will never be quite as solid as it was before the first break, but solid enough. Maybe that was all anyone could hope for. Year 2, September. Nathan sat at his kitchen table on a Saturday morning, coffee in a plain white mug. First frost overnight, windows fogged. He could see his breath until the heat kicked in. He was grading essays. AP US History. Good kids this year. Smart. Engaged. The trust account still had $47 million, mostly untouched. The checking account had $212,000. His salary, plus the settlement proceeds, plus interest. He still lived in the same one-bedroom apartment, still drove the 2011 F-150, still did laundry at the laundromat even though the building had machines. Michelle asked him once why he didn't upgrade. Get a house, new truck, travel. I don't need those things, he'd said. But you can afford them. Having money and needing money are different things. She'd kissed him, said she understood. Nathan calculated sometimes the cost of what happened. 6 months of his 50s lost to survival mode. 22 pounds he'd mostly gained back. But his body was different now, carried the weight differently, tired more easily, sleep patterns permanently disrupted. Still woke at 3:47 some nights, not every night, but enough. His father's watch, sold for $240, never recovered, gone. Trust in marriage as an institution, damaged, maybe irreparably. The ability to enter rooms without checking exits first, lost. 28 years of shared history with Linda, now contaminated by how it ended, but also knowledge of who he was under pressure, gained. Clarity about what he needed versus what he thought he should want, gained. Relationships with people who showed up after reading the truth, gained. Professional respect, department lead, students who listen, gained. Michelle, cautious, careful, real, gained. The math didn't balance. It never would. He thought about Linda sometimes, wondered if she was okay. He'd heard she was working at a smaller firm now. Marketing coordinator, not director. Renting an apartment in Waterloo, 40 minutes away. Dating someone new? Maybe. Or maybe not. He hoped she was okay. He meant that. Not because he forgave her. He didn't. Not fully. But because he'd learned that carrying rage was heavier than carrying regret. Regret you could set down sometimes. Rage you had to feed. He was tired of feeding anything except his own life. Nathan's phone buzzed. Michelle, coffee later, my place? He replied, yes, what time? Noon? See you then. He returned to grading. Student essay about the Constitutional Convention. The kid had written, sometimes the most important thing is knowing when to start over with better rules. Nathan wrote in the margin, exactly. The old rules weren't working. They had the courage to admit it. He closed the paper, looked out the window at the frost-burned maple tree in the parking lot. Leaves half-turned, gold and green together, not quite fall, not quite winter. Some things didn't need clean endings. Outside, the apartment building was waking up, footsteps above, coffee maker next door. Car starting in the lot, not silent, but not the drier earthquake of the efficiency above the laundromat. Ordinary noise of ordinary people living ordinary lives. Nathan finished his coffee, gathered his papers, put on his jacket. He had a date at noon, papers to grade tomorrow, a department meeting Monday. A life that wasn't the one he'd built with Linda, but was the one he'd built after her. The court had called it settlement, but Nathan knew some things never settle. They just stop moving long enough to look like peace. He'd won the case, got his money back, got his credit fixed, got his dignity acknowledged, but he hadn't won the war, because there was no war. Just two people who'd built something together, then torn it down because one of them got scared and the other got tired. And in the wreckage, Nathan had learned fair wasn't about revenge. Fair was about the truth having the same weight as the lies. Dignity wasn't about never falling. It was about deciding how you stood back up. And the high road didn't have exits. But it had rest stops where you could sit down, catch your breath, and decide if you wanted to keep walking. Nathan locked his apartment, walked to his truck, drove to Michelle's place. The frost was already melting. But for now, it held everything still. And Nathan found he didn't mind the cold as much as he used to. Late September, year 2, Saturday morning, 6:47 a.m., Nathan sat at his small kitchen table. Coffee in a plain white mug. Not the wedding china, he'd donated all of that. The mug was simple white ceramic, bought at Target for $4. It held coffee the same as the expensive ones had. The apartment was quiet. First frost overnight. Windows fogged from the cold outside meeting the warmth inside. He could see his breath until the heat kicked in with a metallic click and a low hum. He was grading essays from AP US History, his choice now. No longer assigned the worst sections. The test prep classes filled with seniors who'd already checked out. These were students who wanted to learn, who asked questions, who wrote essays that required actual thought to grade. The radio played low on the counter. NPR Weekend Edition. Same station his mother used to listen to while she clipped coupons at her kitchen table, saving quarters in Tupperware, protecting a secret that wouldn't be revealed for 35 years. One student had written about the Seneca Falls Convention, the moment women refused to accept the terms they'd been given. Demanded to be seen as full people, not property, not lesser. Nathan wrote in the margin, "Yes, sometimes the most important act is refusing to accept the terms you're given." He set down his pen, took a sip of coffee. His phone buzzed on the table. Text from Michelle. "Movie tonight? Your pick." He smiled, typed back, "Sure, what time? 7? See you then." They'd been seeing each other for 7 months. Slowly, carefully, she knew about Linda, about the divorce, about the efficiency apartment in the 3:47 a.m. wake-ups in the 6 months of survival mode. She didn't push, didn't demand promises, just showed up, laughed with him, let him move at his own pace. Last week, she'd said, "You're different than most men I've dated. You're not trying to impress anyone." I don't have the energy for performance anymore," he'd said. "Good. I like the real version better." His mother's Bible still sat on the bookshelf across the room, bookmark at Psalm 37. The sticky note was tucked inside, yellowed and soft from being held, for when you need to remember who you are. Nathan didn't need it anymore. He knew who he was now. Tested version, scarred in places, quieter than before, more careful about who he let close, but solid, grounded, real. The checking account showed $212,000. The trust account, $47 million, mostly untouched, sat in investments his mother had chosen decades ago. Conservative, steady, designed to last. He was still teaching. Turned down early retirement twice. Would probably teach another 10 years, maybe more. The money hadn't changed that. Hadn't changed him, really. Just changed what he could do when the truth needed defending. Through the window, Nathan watched the frost-burned maple tree in the parking lot. Leaves half-turned, golden green together, caught between seasons. Not quite fall, not quite winter. He thought, some things don't need clean endings. The apartment building was waking up around him. Footsteps on the floor above. Probably the Johnsons getting their kids ready for soccer. Coffee maker gurgling in the next unit. The elderly woman who worked night shift at the hospital. Car starting in the lot. Early shift at the factory. Ordinary sounds. Ordinary people. Ordinary lives that were extraordinary in their persistence. Nathan returned to grading, picked up his pen. The next essay was about the Constitutional Convention. How the founders knew the Articles of Confederation weren't working. How they had to admit the old system was broken before they could build something better. Smart kid. Nathan wrote, "Exactly. Sometimes you have to acknowledge what's broken before you can build what works." He finished his coffee, set the mug in the sink, gathered his papers into a neat stack. Outside, the frost was already melting where the sun hit, but in the shadows, it held everything still. Sharp, clear, temporary but real. Nathan stood at the window for a moment, watched his breath fog the glass, watched it fade. He thought about Linda sometimes, hoped she was okay, meant it. He thought about his mother more often, wished he could thank her, tell her the card worked exactly the way she'd known it would. He thought about the man he'd been on day 28, sitting in that conference room, hand hovering over the signature line, thinking he had to take the high road because that's what good men did. That man had been broken by kindness, by the belief that being quiet meant being good. This man, the one standing at the window, in the small apartment, with the fogged glass and the melting frost, knew better now. Silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. Taking the high road didn't mean accepting unfair terms. It meant refusing to become the person who'd hurt you. And fair wasn't about winning. Fair was about the truth finally having the same weight as the lies. Nathan grabbed his jacket, keys. Wallet with the old ATM card still tucked inside, though he never used it. Kept it as a reminder. He had a date at 7, papers to grade tomorrow, a department meeting Monday. A life that wasn't the one he'd planned, but was the one he'd built from the pieces that remained. Outside, the cold air hit his face. Sharp, clean. Nathan walked to his truck, started the engine, let it warm. The frost was melting fast now. By noon, it would be gone entirely. But for this moment, it held everything still. And Nathan found he didn't mind the cold as much as he used to.